Hi, Fabbo listeners. Welcome back. This is episode 60. I'm super excited you're joining us today because I sat down with my good friend, Jen Vazquez, and she is a coach, and she's a photographer, and you know what? She's a Pinterest guru. So she helps female entrepreneurs use Pinterest easily with strategy and repurposing tips to book clients. And she works a lot in our wedding industry. Now, Jen started her career as a wedding photographer and now does elopement photography and does a lot of branding photography because what's your story, right? Every small business has a story, a history, and a mission that drives them. So what better way to capture your uniqueness than to have your own branding session? And in that branding session, Jen will create images for you, and anybody should have one of these branding sessions, right? But when those branding sessions happen, now you're creating content for your Pinterest. We're going to talk about Pinterest boards. We're going to talk about the power of Pinterest. You're going to hear the passion and the excitement in Jen's voice. So if you're overwhelmed with Pinterest and you just think it's another social media avenue you should go down, I want you to stop what you're doing. I want you to grab a piece of paper and I want you to sit down and fully put the earbuds in and listen in. Now, there's a lot of content in this episode and you're going to want to reach out to Jen to get more information. But she is offering our listeners an amazing opportunity that if you mention the Be Fabbo Podcast, she's giving you a discount on any of her services. So we like to offer you some value here for tuning in, and our listeners, you're going to enjoy spending some time with Jen and getting to know her. But we're going to ask some hard questions. I put her on some hot seats, and we kind of bounce around a lot. And you're going to hear, again, the passion that Jen has for what Pinterest has done for her business and how she's seeing results with her clients that are using it. So if you're overwhelmed about Pinterest, you really don't know how to start Pinterest, or you are just up to your ears not knowing how to do pins, put those earbuds in, turn up the volume, because today our topic is Pinterest marketing strategy, and this is the Be Fabbo Podcast. Be right back after this, y'all. Stay tuned. Listening to the Be Fabbo Podcast, episodes full of candid conversations that speak to the hard truth that it takes more than hustle and luck to be your own CEO. Being a creative entrepreneur and running a business is not at all like the glam that you see on Instagram or reality TV. The truth is, it's showing up every single day, putting in the blood, sweat, and yes, lots of tears. Oh, do not forget all the hard work. I'm your host, Bobbi photographer, coach, speaker, wedding industry educator, diet Mountain Dew addict. You see why, right? I am hitting the pause on that hustle and luck myth button because it's more than getting a really cute website and hanging a now open sign. Not just waving the magic wand so that all the success, money, and clients will just be lined up, ready to hire you. Hope is not a business strategy, my friends. And along with my guests, the goal of our podcast is to motivate, educate, and celebrate creative entrepreneurs discussing topics and information that will help you get and keep you in that CEO mindset through our candid conversations. You're going to hear stories from other creatives at different stages along their career journey. They'll be sharing the same struggles you have, as well as business insights, tools, and foundations that they have in place to keep their businesses moving forward, no matter what kind of SHIT tries to knock you off your career path. I want to challenge you to unapologetically keep showing up to attract your ideal clients, serve them in the most Fabbo way, while collecting a purpose-driven paycheck. I want to empower you to create a career that you not only love and are proud of, but also one that your clients love and will support even more. Now let's get started. Well, everybody, welcome back. I am super excited. As you guys can hear from the bio, I have this amazing photographer and this Pinterest marketing guru, as you like to call her, on Clubhouse. But I think she has a big following outside Clubhouse more so. But that is how Jen and I got connected, was on Clubhouse. So I'm super excited. She's very busy. I'm very busy. We're all very busy, right? Getting ready for the world's busiest time of weddings. So we're going to help you today. And I'm not an expert in Pinterest. You all know that's far above my pay grade, but that's what I bring these guests in for you. So that's why Jen is going to be here. So I'm going to let her give you a little bit of background about her, because as many of us we're not doing exactly what we were doing when we started the wedding industry. So Jen, my guest, I love having you here. Thank you so much. So tell everybody how you went from an amazing photographer to amazing Pinterest marketing guru strategist.
Well, it would have to go back in time. So I actually was a recruiter for a long time. And when I left my career, I was at a Fortune 500 company. And I was training and teaching all of the recruiters on how to market their business with friendship type marketing, which was sort of alien back then, but that's how I naturally sold. I loved something. I wanted to tell everybody about it. And then I went and became a photographer, which I had always been doing photography my whole life, just like most people, right? Especially because I have 4 adult kids now and I photograph them all raising up. But I started photographing in 2009. And right around 2009, 2010, Pinterest came out. So I was already new relationship marketing. And that's how I marketed my business, was on Pinterest before, Instagram was around.
Well, I had no idea, because I didn't know that Pinterest started. So it's really not as old as I thought it was. I mean,
it's not.
Since I've never used it, and we'll talk about that later, but I thought it's been around I knew it was after Instagram, but I had no idea that it was a fairly new.
It actually started with invitation only, if you can believe it. Wow. That's kind of how Clubhouse started, right?
Right.
And that's how Pinterest started. I mean, that's one of the launch, the ways that you can launch something that makes it more exciting. And as a wedding professional, wedding professionals should know, wedding content on Pinterest is huge.
Wow.
It's huge. And so every wedding professional should be on there. But I basically started as a photographer, and a professional photographer by that point, in 2009, and started using Pinterest right away. And all of my friends in the industry asked me questions here or there, like, what are you doing? At one point I had 1 million followers and impressions a month. Like it was insane.
Right.
Of course, nowadays it's not that easy. But because that would be great. But all of my friends ask for information and what I'm doing. And I am the type of person who always creates a system for myself so that it's replicable and easy and not time consuming. And Pinterest has always been part of my marketing process. And so as I was telling people, I had multiple friends who would actually come on and embarrass me right now and say, I told you to make a business of it. I told you in 2015 to make a business of it. But it took till 2018 for me to launch my Pinterest coaching. And since then, right at the end of 2018, I started my Pinterest membership because for me, I like educating live, and we have 2 live sessions every week. And I find that it's better to learn in that environment where you see somebody doing it, you try it, and you ask questions on how to do it versus a course. That's why I never went the course route. And now today I do VIP days where it's like one day and you learn everything you need to do. And we create a actual strategy for you to actually do it yourself. And those are the only 2 things that I do for my Pinterest coaching.
Well, so that is, you're kind of like an odd duck there, because most creative photographers, I don't want to know the business side. I just want to take pretty pictures, or I want to be the dress designer, keeping it all in the wedding industry. I just want to be the one that creates the food, right? So you really kind of came into, hey, I have a business mind. I love that. It feeds me. How can I marry them? So you are actually sitting here, and if you can't see everybody because I don't do the YouTube podcasting part of it yet. But the excitement on your face when you talk about Pinterest actually is more than your excitement when the photography. So they both feed your soul. So do you say that you're equally doing it equally now? I know a little bit about the backstory, but was that part of the COVID shift that, well, thank heaven I have something in the back burner?
Yeah. And it wasn't the COVID shift, because I started my business in 2018 and COVID didn't hit until, 2020 or the end of 2019. But what my COVID shift was to do from weddings And I ended up falling in love with elopements.
Yeah.
And so I've shifted my wedding business over to elopements, but I also added brand photography in 2018. I was seeing all of the photographers and wedding pros that were trying to work on Pinterest, and they didn't have any images of themselves.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm a photographer. We should be talking about branding.
Right.
And so my photography business is, I would say at this point, it's primarily branding and weddings, but primarily branding. And my coaching business is really the bulk of my income at this point. And so I feel like I don't know that I want to let go of the photography side, because it feeds my creativity and I love photographing. That's why I started that business. Right. And I don't see that ending anytime soon, but I also decided I didn't want those 10 and 12-hour days anymore.
Right.
And it was, while the creative side of my brain was being fed, teaching people is something that naturally, instinctively, I absolutely love. And so being able to teach them something like for Pinterest, which I know and I'm good at, but also from the wedding pros side of things, just naturally fit in my business.
Well, see, and I can see that, because that's the creativity feeds your soul, the photography, but then that business part, how do I make that work? So you mentioned earlier that your friends and everybody came to you. So what was it that you think they saw you were doing right? So I'm going to be blunt here. Did I hear you say that Pinterest can be a lead magnet? Can we actually convert Pinterest into clients?
Okay, so I will have you know that I spend about a half hour to an hour working on Pinterest a week.
Yeah.
I spend many, many more hours on Instagram, and Pinterest is 80% of my traffic on my website.
Wow. And so you track that from Pinterest. It says they go to Pinterest and then they go. So it's like we always say, you have to have something that funnels into your website. Does you still have to have a website? You have to have a funnel in. So that brings us to this next question. How the heck do I know how to start a Pinterest? Let's just keep it with photographers. So everybody else listening in, just kind of chime in, because we're gonna share the lens and f-stop stuff. So perfect example, a wedding photographer, and maybe I haven't really done Pinterest, but now, like you, I want to do more elopement photography. I need to just start pinning elopement photos. What is something, how can you start us off at this part of our conversation? What are like 3 things, and get your pen and paper, everybody. What are the 3 things right now that every wedding professional, especially wedding photographer, can do to start getting traffic to their website?
Okay, you're going to limit me to 3 things. Let me think now. Number 1 is you have to have a business Pinterest account. A lot of people make the mistake of utilizing their personal Pinterest account and putting business on it. So number 1, you need to have a business Pinterest account. Second, you need to utilize your images with text overlay that tells people why they're going to click, or those beautiful images are going to get pinned to a 16-year-old future wedding board, and you're not going to get your clients that way, right? You have to use it in a marketing mind frame, and you want to have your website on that beautiful image. You want to have your website, a call to action, and what they're going to see when they go there, whether that's a beautiful summer wedding on the cliffs in Big Sur, or if that's winter wedding in Tahoe with, whatever it is that they're going to. You want to make sure you're telling people that, and using keywords or SEO, just like you do with your website. You have to use that on your pins, on the pin graphic, in the text, and in the description, in order to actually get found. And the third thing is you need to have a board that has freebies or lead magnets. And that would be things for wedding pros, like how to plan a wedding with these 10 steps, or how to, there's so many ways that you can do this, but you want to be able to have all of your lead magnets pinned with graphics saying that it's free, download, and what it is, because A, it gets people to your website. B, it gets people on your email list. And C, it gets people to hear about you. They saw the beautiful image, they wanted that content, and they found you that way. So for wedding folks, the majority of wedding folks are local to a specific area. Yes, you can work anywhere in the world if someone's going to pay for you. But as a bride and groom, hiring the wedding photographer, they almost always put their location first when they're searching. So you must use, this is part of the third one, you must use keywords that are location based to be able to find people. So instead of getting saves and clicks of people that admire your work, which is fabulous, if you actually want to work with people, you've got to use the location that you serve.
So I just heard you tell me that this is hard. This is a lot of work, right? I just heard you say, I have to gather this, I have to know this. So now I am somebody in the wedding industry that is realizing I'm not getting anything from Instagram. Let's be, blunt. You can post and you can do everything, but nobody's like contacting me. Why would Pinterest be different? Why would, if I took that same amount of time and devoted to Pinterest, why would I get a different result?
So first of all, it actually doesn't take as much time as you might be thinking or hyperventilating over after hearing what I said, because oftentimes if you create a list of keywords that you can use for your blog, for your website, for everything else, you have them all in one place. It's not as hard because you're going back to that list time and time again. And basically all those things, if you have a strategy in place that works with you and the way you like to work and with what your business goals are, then you're going to be making the appropriate pins and you're going to be driving the appropriate traffic, location-based traffic to your website, and you will have more leads. Now, if you have Pinterest, and I have to say this because this is the biggest mistake that I see people making, is they say, I've tried Pinterest and no one found me. My question is, how do you know? Did you look at Google Analytics? Did 0 people come to your website? Chances are that's totally incorrect. And secondly, you have to ask one more question when someone finds you. Instead of like in your lead thing where someone's going to contact you, they say, how did you hear about me? They're always going to say Instagram. But the fact is that Instagram is a confirmer that you're a real live person. Right. And to see your current work, whether it's current or not, is immaterial. So people from Pinterest, people from my blog posts, all tell me that they found me on Instagram. And then I say, oh, great. Did you find me from a specific hashtag? Because FYI, we want to know what those are and use them all the time. Right. Or were you referred to me by someone? And then they'll almost always, about 70 to 80% of the time, people pause and say, oh, well, actually, I found your blog post when I was searching for this beach where I want to get married. Or I found you on Pinterest because you did this, lead magnet or free download of something. And that's how I found you. And then I went to Pinterest because I saw you were in my area and I wanted to see the photos that you took. Gotcha. And so you have to ask that qualifying question instead of just where you found me, because 99% of people are going to say where they were last when Right. they contacted you, not where they found you. So as long as you have something like that in place and you have your list of keywords and you have a strategy for what you're going to be doing when, so you're not recreating the wheel, it will take you about a half hour to an hour once a week to market on Pinterest and be able to get in front of more people.
So I also heard you say, we're going to keep it basic for about the next 15 minutes. I heard the word blog several times. You said blog, finding it back. And when you said we need to know where our clients come from, that is for anything, whether you're using
everything.
Pinterest or website or anything. So that's a tip, listeners. You need to know when you ask the question behind the question, y'all. What do you really want to know? Where did you find me on social media and list it, right? Do those things. So I heard you mention blog. So I'm, again, basic. Do I still have to blog if I do Pinterest, or do I do Pinterest and then I don't have to blog? Or do they marry together?
So I have some clients who are successful with using Pinterest and their Instagram and not having a blog. But my clients that have blogs get far more traffic, far more leads, far more everything. So it is incredibly important that you do have a blog. And I think everyone should blog once a week or twice a month. But even if you blog once a month, as long as your blogs are delivering the goods, right? Delivering the things that people are searching for on Google or Pinterest, you're going to have an opportunity to get those clients. So, I mean, yes, I think you should have a blog, but I have had people with lead magnets and just Instagram that also have been successful, but just not as successful as you can with a blog.
Gotcha. I'm going to put you in the hot seat for a minute. So I've gathered all my photos and now I have a whole bunch. And now I've kind of researched all the keywords you just said, coastal California wedding. I have 85,000 keywords now. Can I over Pinterest now? Like, can I sit here for one day and put up 100 pins? Can I over Pinterest?
I wish it was that easy, because then you would do it once and be done, but that's not the case. Pinterest, just like every other social media platform, even though it's more of a search engine, right? You'll hear that from many experts. It's still social media. And so with all social media, you have to be consistent. So when you're considering working on Pinterest, you need to figure out how you're going to do that. You could use Tailwind, which is something that pins on there. You can get a free trial. Send me an Instagram if you want, but the most important thing is that you're consistent. So if you're going to go onto Pinterest 2 times a day and pin 2 pins, and you're going to do it every day, then that's great. It's consistent. Most people are not going to be that consistent with any social media. Now, Pinterest does have its own scheduler. You can pin something. I think it's up to 30 pins maybe over the next couple weeks, but not farther out. So you can use that scheduler so that you can schedule 2 pins for every day at a different time for the next 2 weeks. And you can still be successful on Pinterest by just doing that.
So if I do that, and if I follow a schedule, something like that, and then I had this really kick butt wedding I did on Saturday, can I still come in and pin in between those 3 days?
Anytime you want. Yeah. Oh, okay. You just need to appear consistent. So you can't come on and pin 30 pins today and doing nothing for 2 weeks, right? If you have a consistent schedule and every so often you're going to pin other things, cool. And a lot of people will ask me, especially photographers, you say you want text overlay on the images, but that doesn't prevent you from doing a text overlay that says what they're going to find when they click on that pin, right? Going to the blog of all your wedding images. And I suggest doing 2 or 3 pins with the text overlay, but I also will load up the other pins of my beautiful images because I don't care if they end up on a future wedding board.
Right.
It's giving more content to Pinterest. Pinterest is happier that way. And they're all original images, right? So they're all fresh. Yeah.
So as we begin to go, I'm going to put myself in a couple position now. I got engaged. From your seat, how many couples, percentage-wise, do you think go to Pinterest right off the bat? We used to go ahead and pick up all the bridal magazines, right? So what's the percentage?
A huge percentage.
Okay.
When you're talking about, it's a joke that everyone goes to Pinterest for everything, right? If you want to make a Christmas ornament, you want to find a recipe, or you want to find wedding inspiration, Pinterest is your jam, right? So a majority of people start there before they do anything else, and usually before they hire a wedding planner. So, hey, wedding planners, you need to be on there also. Let me just tell you.
That was a question. That was a question. A listener came in. She goes, I'm a wedding planner. Yes. How practical is it for me to find a client on Pinterest?
Incredibly. I mean, some of my clients are wedding planners, and it's like night and day for them from not pinning to pinning stuff on Pinterest. Wedding planners in particular, I mean, all wedding pros, of course, have tips and tricks, right? But wedding planners tend to have tips and tricks for all of the different industries and all the different types of wedding pros, because they're planning a wedding day in and day out. So their tips on planning a wedding in particular are incredible. So you want to make sure that any blog post that you do about that, or if you have a freebie on 10 steps when you get engaged or whatever, you want to create pins like that, because those are the type of pins that do incredibly well. And I want to tell all the other wedding vendors, you don't have to be a wedding planner to do wedding planning tips on Pinterest. I do, and I'm a wedding photographer. So it's not limited to your scope of expertise, but you know what your clients have told you. I got married, my 2 adult children got married. I got wedding planning tips too, even though I'm not a wedding planning expert. So don't limit yourself, depending on what your industry is, on what you pin on Pinterest. The things that do incredibly well on Pinterest have to do with that inspiration and figuring out things. So I even have something that a blog post that I did on figuring out your wedding date, right? All the tips that people don't think about, like planning around a holiday, not so smart. Those types of things, right? And so I did something on that, and that's one of my top pins on Pinterest, and I'm not a wedding planner.
So you can talk about, for instance, as a photographer, I could talk about when choosing a venue, looking for the light. So I can talk about that, right?
Let me tell you, for Pinterest, the first thing people look for, sometimes even before wedding planners, is the venue, right? So planning the date is probably the first step, right? And or the wedding venue. Those are the 2 things I write about the most as a wedding photographer, because let me be honest, when someone has either planned to get married at a wedding venue, the first thing that they do is go to Pinterest, type in the wedding venue, and see all of the images to see what kind of images they can get, what poses they like, all this kind of stuff, right? And so if you could put on, for me, one of my other top pins is my top 10 favorite wedding venues, right? Exactly. And you don't even have to say favorite if you don't want to offend people. Right. You can say 5 wedding venues in San Jose, California, 5 wedding venues in Los Gatos, California, 5, you can do all kinds of things. And the blog post doesn't have to be that in depth. In order to be good on Google, you want at least 300 to 500 words, of course, but especially with and also if you're not a wedding photographer, talk to your wedding photographers. Right. They are very happy to share their images with you. You should be having these images all over Pinterest. Because if I'm a photographer, as I am, and you went to search the San Jose Mountain Ranch, and my photos came up, what if you as a couple said, oh my God, I love that photo, I can hire her. Yes. See? But so in order for that to happen, I somehow had to have a pin somewhere on Pinterest, either myself or somebody else. Yes. Now, here's the other thing. Pinterest launched a little bit ago to be able to tag other vendors, very similar to Instagram. And that has increased my people seeing my pins by a tremendous amount. Just like on Instagram, the more people you pin, the more life that your post or your story gets. The same is true on Pinterest, but 15 times more. So one of the questions that came in that's sort of on that line is, can you please ask Jen, I'm hearing that we don't want to use hashtags anymore on Pinterest. Myth, rumor? Totally true. It used to be that hashtags worked like Instagram, right? Then it used to be about 6 months ago, you can use them or not use them, totally up to you. They can't hurt, right? Now they hurt. So, and when I say that, I'm talking from I'm a Pinterest manager where I take care of other people's Pinterest, as well as my membership and my VIP clients. All of them, when they use or have used hashtags and then not using hashtags, it gets way less views with hashtags. Do not use them. So if you're posting something from that you're going to use that was on Instagram, right, and you're going to post it on Pinterest, take out the hashtags. Very important.
Okay, so that brings up the question. So if I'm using a scheduler and I can do Pinterest, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, I need to make sure when I come through that I remove those.
So when you're, yeah, well, when you're using, so if you're using Tailwind as an example, you are pinning for Pinterest and it makes you open a separate little page, a separate little description page for Facebook. And that's specifically to leave out the hashtags. So, and there are other schedulers. You just want to make sure that they are approved by Pinterest, because it will hurt you if you're using a scheduler that is not approved by Pinterest.
Got you. So now let's go back to the blog a little bit, because I think most of us have been in the industry for a long time. We know we're supposed to blog. So now that blog needs to have that Pinterest logo in the corner. Does that mean it's automatically posting to Pinterest? How does that work?
Great question.
Yeah.
Great question. So I use WordPress. Sorry, I forgot the name. I use WordPress, and there's plugins. There's multiple different plugins that you can use for that little graphic. And all that little graphic does is it gives you an opportunity for people to pin it on their board from reading your blog post, which brides and grooms do all the time. So just as a heads up, if you don't have that little graphic, as a wedding pro, you absolutely should. And I take it one step further. Down at the bottom of every one of my blogs, I have, if you found this helpful and you want to save it, click below for Pinterest, or tap it for Pinterest. And then I have 6 different graphics on there, 6 to 8, depending on my blog post, that have the text overlay with the beautiful images. So it's an easy way for people to pin it. And instead of pinning just the images, they have an opportunity to pin the images that have the graphics, which then when it goes on their board, it's shown to more people. It's like exponential growth. The other thing that you just reminded me of, the other thing that people don't do is on the link in your bio, have your Pinterest board in there. Like, drive people from Instagram to your Pinterest. You'll get more impressions, you'll get more followers that way. And people just don't think. I also once a month or every couple months will share my Pinterest board also in my group on Facebook.
I want to stop right there. Board. Because now you've lost us. Board. Are you saying that that's everything that you pin? That's basically your Pinterest site. Is board and site intertwined? Is board separate?
So profile is what I'm sharing on my Instagram link. Thank you for correcting that. And you can share your profile also on Facebook. But what I do every couple months is share a board, a specific board that's on my Pinterest that's specialized maybe on wedding dresses, or it's specialized on pink weddings, or whatever it is. I will share the board every so often in my group, because they've already seen probably my Pinterest. And this way I'm sharing different boards. So people can follow your profile, which is following all your boards, or more likely these days, they'll follow one board that they're interested in.
So when we set up Pinterest, we're not just going to put a picture on, pin it, and go. We need to go San Diego weddings, outdoor weddings. And so on that, can a San Diego wedding pin over here? Does it need to also be in the outdoor wedding board?
It can, if it makes sense. So a lot of people will take the same pin and pin it to every board they have, which is not effective. You don't really want to pin to more than 10 boards, or you look spammy and you don't want to get shut down, because you will. So you want to pin it to the boards that make sense. And oftentimes for someone like myself who has a lot of boards, I have to figure out what are the best boards. So if I have a wedding under an arch with the bride and groom, I can pin it to the arch. I can pin it to the time of year. I can pin it to the colors. I can pin it to the wedding gown. I can pin it to florist, whatever makes sense, but you don't want to overdo it, right? You don't want to do more than 10. And one board or 2 boards that every business Pinterest should have is your business name board. So Jen Vazquez Photography, I've got a board. So every single pin that I pin to another board also gets pinned to that board, because if someone's coming to my Pinterest profile and wants to see all my work, they can go to that board. The other board is free resources. Everyone should have a free resources board, and every blog post is put on that. That's a free resource, right? Reading blog posts. You can put Instagram posts on there. You can put, and of course you should put any lead magnets you have on there as well.
So I want to wrap that up on that little, put a bow on that section. So we have all the boards, but two we need to have is what our specialty is. If I'm a bridal shop,
your business name.
Shop. And then the free resources, I want all the listeners to hear that. Every time you've made this amazing blog, pin it to that free resource. Don't just put it out there. One of the things that I often get asked when I'm out speaking, and we all know that this is not my expertise, but I hear it, right? I am privileged enough to have other Pinterest people talk, or not so good and some good, let's be honest, that are sharing. So I often hear that question. It's like, I just throw everything out there and it doesn't make any sense. And so it's like, how does somebody even know to go there? But if I want to go specifically and look for what my niche is, I need to have that board. And then if you're going to take the time and blog, don't just throw it in there with a bunch of different things. So that is a great tip, listeners. Hear that. I'm going to put you in the hot seat right now. Ready? Does everything that we do deserve to be pinned? Every photo we take, every wonderful wedding. How do I know which ones to put on there?
Two things to consider putting on there. If I do a blog post that's about something personal to me that doesn't have anything to do with weddings, do not put it on your Pinterest board, because your Pinterest board should be all business. Now, a couple of personal, maybe Instagram posts, maybe you want to pin on there, but you don't want to drive necessarily people to your personal blog post. You want to make sure that every pin is going to be helpful for your wedding people, right? The second thing is, we all know that we book weddings that we are not necessarily, I wouldn't say not proud of, but that it's not our aesthetic, right? It's not our brand. And we will do the weddings, but don't pin anything you don't want to photograph. Because if you pin something where all the groomsmen are holding the groom up with his legs spread open like a Safeway turkey, and you don't want to take those photos every wedding, do not post that anywhere. Not on Pinterest, not on Facebook, not on Instagram.
Exactly.
Now, and I believe that every wedding should go on Instagram, but you get to choose what goes on there. So you can do a beautifully created flat lay that doesn't have any aesthetic that you don't care about on Pinterest. Does that make sense?
I know, and that's what I wanted people to hear, because it's like, especially photographers, but I also think venues, and then I think planners go, oh, this is the best thing I've ever seen. And then it's like, okay, but are you now overtelling that story? Is it losing its impact? And I think if you're new to the Pinterest game, and you're listening in today on this podcast, you've heard, Jen, that you have to be proactive, but you have to be decisive proactive. Like you can't just start throwing things up there. You need to have the plan. So segue.
And I'll take that a step further.
Yeah.
The type of content that does the best on Pinterest, while things that are inspirational are great and they do well on Pinterest, when it comes to marketing your business, you want actionable content that educates. So you have this beautiful wedding, which is gorgeous, but what are the takeaways? The bride, worked with the photographer to create the best timeline to get every image they wanted, right? That's educating.
Right.
It's also bringing in the type of ideal clients that you probably want as a photographer. So don't focus what you pin on what's pretty per se.
Right.
Really focus on things that are educating, helping, or letting people know that you're out there to take their business.
Right. And it's like if you have this beautiful, I'm thinking of, I had, one time I had a beautiful bride, and the bouquet was from textbooks, right? So it was a textbook.
So
it was cool, right? So I could have just put that out there and said, here's a bride on the beach. But the story was, why she had the bouquet, because she's allergic to flowers and she's a scientist person in the library, right? So
that needs to be on Pinterest if it's not, Bobbi.
It's not, because I don't have anything on it, but that's exactly. So that's what I think that the listeners sometimes think is like, it's harder than it's easier than it sounds, but it is overwhelming. But it's like anything else. If you sit down and just start, and I think what we're hearing you, Jen, is don't come to Pinterest and start pinning things from 5 years ago. Start today. So that brings us to the question, and we got this about 3 or 4 people that ask, I didn't know I needed a business. I've been putting everything on personal. Will I lose all that if I start?
So you have 2 choices.
Yeah.
You have 2 choices. First choice is to change it to a business, change that actual account to a business, and secret any boards that are not about your business. So here's the thing, the one mistake that people do make a lot on Pinterest is Pinterest takes a look at the name of your Pinterest account, at the description of your Pinterest account, and all of your boards and all of your pins as a big full circle view of exactly what you do. So if you have a lot of extracurricular, like all kinds of stuff like recipes and things like that, that will not help your business account. So you definitely want to make sure you're secreting all those boards. The other thing that you can do is create a business Pinterest account to make it the name that you want, which is your business name, hopefully. And then go from that board for any business stuff you have and pin it to the right boards on your Pinterest site.
Gotcha.
So there's 2 things that you can do, but I highly advise that you secret any boards that are not in and around your business.
So on that point, is there any time during the process of Pinterest that we should just dump stuff, like get rid of it? Can you have too many things? Is it like endless? Just keep everything there.
Yeah, so people are almost never going to get down to the bottom of the board to see old work. And sadly, the photos that we aren't as proud of are some of the top of my pins and are driving so much traffic to my account that it's worthwhile. Okay. So don't spend time cleaning up. Just do it right moving forward. That's my biggest advice to people who have a personal Pinterest account or have a business Pinterest account that they haven't really done much with. Right. Don't worry about what's already on there. Just create it moving forward.
So what I'm hearing is we just need to start.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid, because you really can't.
And don't worry about being perfect. Right. There are no mistakes on Pinterest.
Like, is there a Pinterest person that's going to say, "Oh my"? I mean, I know there's rules, but I mean, you just have to get out there and start.
Yeah. The main rule is don't be spammy. So if you do anything in a spammy way, pin a tremendous amount of pins all in one sitting, and then do nothing for a couple weeks, that's spammy, right? That's really the only thing you have to worry about on Pinterest, because even as you move forward, you can change things as you go. So there are no mistakes. Just put content that your ideal client would value on Pinterest and you will start getting traffic. That's it.
So I'm going to bring this point in, and now I definitely want to go back, but I'm thinking of this because you said it. 2020, a lot of us rebranded. We took the time to say, you know what, I don't like doing that anymore. Maybe my business partner is not continuing on, so I have a new name. What do I do now? Do I start over on a board? Can I take that board and then just start showing the new me?
So the profile, you'll want to change the name, and the name, so not the link name is already there, but the name that's right under the graphic of your profile picture and your board, you're going to change that to what you do now. You're going to change the description to what you do now, and you're going to pin from this point forward on what you do now.
Brilliant. So I think that'll help a lot of people, because I know people have done that. But then I wanted to go back a little bit when we talked about, when we're putting these pins out there and everybody's using them, let's talk about the photographer's safety and right here. If people don't put our names on there, is that wrong? Are we supposed to be crediting photographers? What's the rules of Pinterest?
Yeah, you're not supposed to. It's illegal to use someone's image without your permission. So in other words, if it's disconnected from your link, you can report it to Pinterest and they'll stop that that use. They'll stop it through notifying them first, typically, to take it down, or taking it down for them. And sometimes just dropping that whole Pinterest account, they've made a mistake, right? So a couple things that you can do is, if you're following my advice, to make sure that you have like text overlay and your website and stuff on there, even if it gets disconnected, you're still getting the credit. So that's why you definitely want to make sure your website is on there. A lot of people ask me about using watermarks, and I personally don't use watermarks. You totally can, but people will not know it's you by your watermark. They won't be able to find you. Right. So a website is what I would have on there for sure. If that answers.
And it's just the way it is right now. Just do the right thing and ask. So bringing us a little full circle, let's take us out of the niche of wedding dress florist planner. We have a world of education, a lot of educators. Does Pinterest work for education? Like for me, do I need to get everything speaking thing on? Since I want to segue over, I need to be talking about speaking, what I do, but how, and I get that that's a lead magnet there, but do I stick my podcast on here now? Do I think when I talk, do I do my quotes? What do I do?
Yes, yes, and yes.
Okay.
Podcasts do great on Pinterest. You want to make sure though, that you link directly to the podcast. Or if you have your podcast via your website, so you can have audio on a website page, that's even better, because it gets people to your site versus sharing the Apple link or Spotify link or whatever it is, right? I personally have a podcast board. So I have a podcast board, and that's my podcasts and any other podcasts I found valuable that my ideal client might find valuable. You can share other people's stuff. And I get this question a lot, so I want to address it right away. You're not in trouble if you share other people's content, but you want to make sure it fits your brand and your beliefs. You don't want to share content that is from an educator or a company that you do not resonate with, right? Like that's bad. And you don't want to just pin other people's content. People get into, it's easier to go from that blog post and just share it on their Pinterest, which is great. That's helpful. But 80 to 90% of your stuff on Pinterest should be your own. So yes, sharing quotes that you say and linking to a website where you say that, or sharing a quote with what you say, linking directly to your podcast. People have also linked directly to their Clubhouse actual club as well. By the way, you can go with your cell phone. It doesn't work as well on a computer, but you can go from your cell phone and you have a post that is like the top post in the last 3 months. You can share that directly to Pinterest from your cell phone. On my Instagram, I have an IGTV that shares exactly how to do that. And on Pinterest, you want to claim your website, and you want to claim Instagram, and you want to claim YouTube or whatever else you do, because then in the analytics of Pinterest, you're going to see how many people clicked on Instagram, clicked on YouTube, or clicked on your website. Like that's how you look at the analytics. And if you're using Pinterest as a marketing vehicle, you have to look at the analytics at least once a month, because that's going to tell you what's working and what to pin more of. Your strategy for Pinterest should include the analytics that are telling you what's working.
So Jen, what I'm hearing is you're telling us that Pinterest is powerful.
It is my mission, and I'm going to put it out there publicly because I say it all the time. It is literally my mission to get every single business on Pinterest, because you will find it so effective.
Wow. I mean, because again, it's like one more thing in our wheel.
But it's not. It's not if you create a strategy whereby when you write that blog and you create the graphics, you also create the pins right then, because you're in that mode of creating graphics. Once a week, you have a plan to pin all of these graphics that you've created, linking to your Pinterest page, to your blog post. And it's just a part of your process. You won't spend more than an hour a week after you get used to your strategy, right? It does always take a little bit of extra time when you're learning something new. But all of my clients spend a half hour to an hour and are getting people coming to their website. It works.
So you have to create some freebies like you do anything else. So should freebies on Instagram be the same as Pinterest? When we talk about freebies, since a lot of the questions are about lead magnets and conversion, do we treat them the same on Pinterest as we do on Instagram? And then where else do we stick those lead magnets? Do we stick them on our website? And then from our website, are we supposed to still be driving people to our Pinterest board?
This is a great question. One thing that I will say that I have noticed makes a difference. I use ConvertKit now. I used to use MailChimp, and I would use their landing page. And those links are MailChimp type links or ConvertKit. They have CV in it or what have you. Yeah. And they tend to not do as well. And so what I am advising people, and this is over the last 3 months now, what I'm advising people to do is to create a landing page, just like you create a blog post, right? You're creating a landing page with whatever the name of your, whatever it is, and embedding the content, that content that it's collecting, you're embedding it in your website so that you're pinning your lead magnet so that people go to your website, enter their first name and email, and then go through that process, which is through your email client, but it still looks like you. It's not sending them to what people can consider kind of a spammy landing page on an email client, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. So now our listeners are to the point where they're like, I semi got this, I semi understand it, or oh my gosh, everything's a mess. This is your chance to really share. And I want you to be honest here, Jen.
Yeah.
Because I think as educators and coaches, we have to be honest and realistic. If somebody literally is just a mess and frustration sets in and they get discouraged, and you and I both share the point, if you're getting discouraged, you need to step away from it. And yes, it might be financially investment. You might have to do something, but why put yourself through that? Because you're not spending that energy on something that is joyful, it fulfills you, or you're not helping your business move forward. So you're better off just to not do it and not have the stress. So now I have a board that's a mess, or I just don't know what to do. I'm reaching out to Jen. Please tell us the processes that I know it's a little hard because you have to recommend, but really talk us a little bit about what you suggest people start, kind of based on I'm a total mess versus I have nothing. Where would they start?
So I find people that are a total mess are of two camps. One, they're so busy that they can't think, which is a lot of us wedding pros right now. Or two, I don't know how to make it work. Right? Either way, they don't have a process or a system that makes it easy. When you have a process that you can just rinse and repeat, and it's a habit and it's easy to do, it will make it easier for you.
Right.
Now, some people, it's worth the investment to have someone else do it or to hire a VA to help. So either a Pinterest manager or a VA to do some of the work, whatever part you find difficult, or all of it, or find someone to help you create a system that is easier for you, right? When we're overwhelmed and it's not because we're busy,
right,
it's 9 times out of 10 because we don't have a system that works for our personality.
Right. And we have to trust
everyone
that
works differently.
Exactly.
Everyone works different.
So on that though, when we talk about setting up the process, I hear text over photos. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, I need photos. I need some way to do a text. I'm adding more and more things as I listen in. And I think that you have shared very well the value and the power of Pinterest. But I know we have all levels of listeners here, from very beginners to ones like me that I don't want to do this, but I know I need to. So is starting off really going to a VA and having that VA come and ask you a bunch of those same questions that you probably don't know the answer to? Is it just better off to go start with a Pinterest manager, let them set up your system, and then you can take the baby steps away and then maybe have a VA step in?
That, or do a VIP day. So one of my clients recently just decided she knows the value of Pinterest. She doesn't want to do it, but she wants to know how her business works, which I really recommend for anybody and anything you outsource, right? Know at least a little bit about it. And so I had her and her VA on, and in one day, I taught them what matters, what needs to be done, created a strategy and a system that they could walk through to create. On Mondays, I write my blog post. On Tuesdays, I create graphics. Like step by step. And then they went off and did it themselves. I have some people that do my VIP day and then join my Pinterest management for the accountability of getting online and pinning and having somebody there to answer the questions. And then I have people that just know they don't want to do it and they just want to hire someone to take care of it. And that's golden too, because you don't have to do anything and it's being done for you, but there's a cost to it. So you have to decide where your business is and figure out kind of how you want to address that.
But I want to give you props and kudos for a second and praise you. The fact that you said you allow the person and their VA to come. I can just tell you that's not normal in this industry. Not normal, right? Because that's somebody else hearing it, then that VA can go off and teach it, and then you're out of the circle. We have got to, in this industry, regardless whether you're an educator or not, stop worrying about if somebody else is going to take your idea, because they're not you. I mean, you didn't invent Pinterest. You didn't come up with Pinterest.
Correct.
You've just learned how to make it work for everybody. And your way is not the same as somebody else's. And how
Correct.
But the fact that you allow somebody to bring a VA that we know that I'm not going to do it, but the VA will, I just got to give you props for that, because people just don't do that. Right. So when we talk,
and I also provide a video so that they can go back and rewatch it. Because I know that one day of training can sometimes be overwhelming and you might miss certain things. So and a lot of people don't do that either because they're afraid of giving away their system. And I personally trust that people are going to do the right thing, especially the people I choose to work with.
Exactly. And so that's the key to that. So we've talked a lot about the power of it. I'm going to throw you in the hot seat again right now. And I want to ask you.
Bring it on.
I want to ask you, and it's like a 3-part question. Would your photography business be where it is today without Pinterest? And could you be doing just business coaching just on its own if you didn't have Pinterest? How valuable to you has Pinterest been? And then the follow-up is that, where do you see Pinterest in the next 6 months to a year?
Okay, gosh, this is a real good question, Bobbi. Nobody's asked me this question. I truly believe, because of the analytics, seeing that 80% of my social media traffic is coming from Pinterest, it is a huge part of why I'm successful at what I do, period. Mm-hmm. I cannot imagine a day when I would not be using Pinterest. Things change. We don't know what's coming down the pike. But we just had a Pinterest festival on the 21st. And one thing that they talked about is idea pins are where it's at. And if you go to Pinterest now, there's a watch tab and it looks very similar to Reels or TikTok. And I encourage my clients to create idea pins as a full-fledged training in the 5 to 10 to 20 slides. And that is the direction Pinterest is going. Pinterest is going, and a lot of people say, well, I don't want to use Pinterest now because not every pin is going to be linked directly to my blog. But let me tell you, I have 2 clients in the last month that found me from my idea pins. They found me because of my idea pins. They clicked on it because people don't know idea pins. When you click on them, they go directly to your profile. And they saw my business board on there, my freebies, and they got into my funnel and got on my email list and ultimately contacted me to work with them. So instead of trying to work around the changes that come on Pinterest, I work the way that Pinterest is wanting it to be, a place to find inspiration, DIY, how to do stuff, and to learn in a very friendly, and by the way, the most positive corner of the internet when it comes to social media. And as long as you keep in mind what they're wanting for their clients, and you're connecting it to your business goals, no matter what changes come down the pike, you're gonna be okay.
Right.
A lot of people feel like I can't even look at analytics from last year to this year because things have changed so much. They've changed how they are doing the numbers. But if you boil down what changes they've made it so that you know what your work has brought you, not what other people's work has brought you. And that is important. For me, even though my numbers dropped dramatically, I don't care because they're real numbers. So I always tell people, stop worrying about what social media platforms are going to change and make it harder for us, and just learn to do your strategy and what works on there, following their rules, and you'll be totally okay.
So it kind of goes back to, if you just do the basics and start there, you can continue to grow with it, because not everybody wants to do reels, or not every. And so that's the question. If I jump onto Pinterest, or like anything else, I don't have to do every cog in the wheel that they have. I can still
but if you want to jumpstart your numbers, if you want your analytics to grow, you will do the things that they are wanting us to do. Right now, they're idea pins. But guess what, folks? If you create an idea pin on Pinterest, you can make that into a reel on Instagram. And I don't have my face on there. It's just pure education, and it's working for me. And so I always tell people, even if you don't want to do everything that's on there, try it, because you may find so much success that it's worth it.
And we always talk about it, and I know how you feel, that we have to have our email list and we have to have our website.
We own it. Those are the only two things we own.
Exactly. Case in point with Facebook and Instagram.
A whole day they went down.
Right. So can Pinterest, this could happen to Pinterest too, but the likelihood is less maybe, right?
Correct. I think so, because the majority of the content right now are pins that link to other people's websites. Pinterest makes mistakes like every social media platform does. And there's times when they will accidentally tell people that they use spammy things and they'll shut down their Pinterest, and you send an email to them, they'll reinstate you. It's a mistake. It's human, right? Whenever humans are involved, mistakes are going to happen, and they could potentially happen everywhere. I just have never seen Pinterest have issues like Facebook and Instagram. I'll just put that out there.
Exactly. So that brings us up. I was going to bring it up, and then funny, 3 or 4 people mentioned it. This Pinterest Creators Club. What is this?
So 2 things. So this is one thing that they talked about. So the Pinterest Creators Club has been around for maybe a couple years. And it's mainly saying that you go from your Pinterest, you sign up for the Pinterest Creators Club, you take an oath that you're going to make 1 idea pin a month, and you're going to be positive, and you're going to create content, those basic things.
Right.
Yesterday, or whatever it was for the festival, the 21st, I'm so lost on dates today.
Right.
It was yesterday. They actually mentioned that they put money in an account to pay creators to make stuff. So when you go to the creators area to sign up, there's going to be a place that you can join, and they're telling you the content that they want and giving you an opportunity to create content and possibly get paid for it. There's no guarantee.
Sure.
And guess what one of those areas is?
Wonder.
You want to take a guess?
Let me see. Something that we're probably very familiar with.
Weddings. Yes, because it is a big topic on Pinterest. So not only can you get on Pinterest and grow your business that way, but you can potentially get paid $50 for a piece of content you created. Why not?
Exactly. And I think we'll wrap up a little bit with it might be an investment to get a Pinterest manager, but if you book, let's just say, even if you're a bridal gown person, even if you're a florist, I think even if you're a sign person or a stationery, it's a couple $100, right? It's paid for that. So if something is stressing you, you guys have spent this 40 so odd minutes with Jen, number one, you hear her passion, right? You hear her authority on it. I want you to make sure that you hear her authority on it. She is putting her money where her mouth is, that this works and will work for you regardless of what you do or how you do it. And it's also a positive place to be. And it's a place that you can make some changes. Like if you want to really change something about your business and you want to do a rebrand and you want to grow to a new direction, this is how this happens. So we're going to do a little 10 rapid fire to close out before I let you tell everybody where to find your talents. So number 1, if I had to spend the next 3 months working on one thing in my business, from Pinterest to social media to my website, where would I put my money and my time right now?
I would say put your money in a coach that will teach you a system to make marketing easier. That is where I would put my money.
Perfect. Number 2, understanding the strategy behind why you do something is more important than the passion you have to do it.
Are you asking me if that's a yes or no question? Understanding the strategy is more important than passion. I have a hard time with this question because passion takes you places that you never thought you could go. But if you don't understand the strategy behind it and something changes, then your passion won't get you further. So I'm going to have to go with strategy.
Exactly. Because, vision is passion, but without the passion, would there be a vision? Without the vision, would there be a passion? Right?
It's hard. Yeah. These are good, Bobbi.
Exactly. Number 3, if you had to do one thing different up to your career in photography right now, one thing different, what would it be bringing you now? So in the past, from last year on, one thing different, what would it be that you would do that would put you where you are today that you did different?
To trust your inner voice when you're talking with a potential lead. I feel like in your early career, you kind of take everything that comes in because you are eager to get this business up and running. But if you constantly make sure that you're booking your ideal client, you will actually enjoy your job more.
Exactly, 100%. And then what is one of the biggest missions that you would like to accomplish in the next 3 years? A personal, but that's a business. So personally in your business, what would you like to accomplish?
Everyone I know, including Bobbi, will be using Pinterest.
There you go. I love it.
That's a personal mission. Truly. I feel like every single person I've worked with, either with free stuff, free information, free trainings to paid, every single one of them say to me, oh my gosh, this is so much better than I thought. So I just hope that will give everyone the courage or the encouragement to step forward with Pinterest.
And then this is a hard one for a hot seat. Not everybody should be a coach, and why?
Not everybody should be a coach because I feel like not everyone has the skill in the area that they potentially want to coach in. And if you have the passion to be a coach, I would say get education first from multiple people to really know what you're doing. Oftentimes, I feel like people step into a coach position because they've learned from one person and they don't have a whole picture. And then they're spreading that version forward for everyone they're teaching. And you would do a better job, like I did, learning from a multitude of coaches, from multitude of Pinterest coaches and a multitude of marketing coaches before I ever step forward to coach others.
Exactly. And the last one on this round of rapid fire is Pinterest is unique to each of us. In every genre that we do, Pinterest needs to be who we are, what we do, and who we serve. Yes or no?
Absolutely, positively. Your Pinterest profile will do far better no matter what pins you're putting on there if it's very straightforward with who you are and what you do and who you serve. Absolutely.
Great. So now tell our listeners what you would like to do for them, how you can serve them, any special promos, anything you want to share right now. I want everybody, listeners, I only bring people on my show that are going to motivate you, challenge you, encourage, and empower you, and a candid conversation. And we talked about a lot. We're not here to do the work for you on this podcast, but I'm going to introduce you to people that are going to be able, you took notes and you might be able to walk away with one or two things, but I want you to get with Jen and work with Jen so she can give you some takeaways. So what do you have for us? Let us know some of the things that you can help everybody, and then we will wrap up, my friend.
Okay, perfect. One thing that you can do is you can get free, all of my free downloads are all on one page at my website /resources. I'm sure Bobbi will have a link somewhere. Yep. So I encourage you to download those freebies. They'll help you in your strategy and marketing on Pinterest. I'm also on Clubhouse with my friend Bobbi here, and I do a lot of Pinterest rooms for free. And also on my Instagram, you can come and literally ask me any question. I am always available for you. And anybody that wants to work for me, if you let me know that you heard me on Bobbi's podcast, I will give you a discount on anything that you want from me. Any service, anything. You will get a discount if you mention Bobbi.
That's good. And I want to wrap by saying that you will sit down with somebody to make sure you're a right fit, right? Because you're like me. I can't do the work for you. We've already said it 3 or 4 times, but I want somebody that wants to work and put the work in. So when you set up a discovery call with Jen, I want you to seriously sit back and bring your questions and find out the path. And one thing I will say about Jen, and in full disclosure, we have never met in person, but over the course of the year, I can tell you that we have grown to appreciate, respect, understand each other's heart. And so I know that she wants you to succeed more than you do. So she really wants to make sure that the time she puts in with you and the time you put in with her is going to gain you some steps moving forward in this process.
Yes, and I've turned people down, meaning someone wanted to work with me. And when I asked all of the questions that I asked to identify the people that I can help, if I'm going to have a hard time helping, or I'm not going to be able to get a good result from you, I'm not going to take your money. Like it's not worth it.
I love it. Well, thank you, Jen, for sharing your time, your intelligence, your expertise, your heart. Again, the passion you have for Pinterest. I think we all can follow somebody that believes in it, and that I want my listeners to hear, I want you guys to hear that she's put it to use. Like she's using and living what she's talking. So team will have everything linked to the show notes, every way to get back to Jen, all the specials and everything, but do follow her, get to know her and listen to her, and get out there and start pinning, because we're getting ready to get into engagement season and we're getting ready to be a business. And right now, you better be pinning.
You have to pin now.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Yes. All right, Jen. Thank you so much. Listeners, we'll see you all next time right back here. Make sure you follow me and Jen over on the Clubhouse, because it's not dead for those of us that love to serve and teach.
Yeah.
So we'll talk to you all later next time. Have an absolutely fabulous day. Bye-bye, everybody.
For more information about today's show, check out the show notes on the Be Fabbo blog at bobbibrinkman.com. Along with some offers for our listeners, you'll also find information about how to work with Bobbi as a coach, a speaker, or for workshops. She'd love to collaborate with you. Oh, and don't forget, subscribe to the podcast to keep motivation coming to your earbuds. Be Fabbo.